Since Trump was reelected president, billionaire wealth has grown at 3 times its normal rate, while inequality is soaring for normal people. Amid all of this, Trump showed up at Davos as, quote, capitalism's new sheriff in town, but people are seeing right through it. Ahead of Davos, the NGO Oxfam International released this report called Resisting the Rule of the Rich, Protecting Freedom from Billionaire Power. They opened by saying that since Trump was reelected in November 2024, billionaire fortunes have grown at a rate 3 times faster than before. They point out that there are more billionaires than ever. They also specifically name drop Elon Musk, who, as we know, is closely allied with the president, helped him get reelected, and is supporting him throughout his second term. And as billionaire wealth rose by over 2.5 trillion, that would have been enough to eradicate extreme poverty 26 times over. The World Economic Forum conference at Davos in Switzerland is supposed to be about economic progress and improving the state of the world. So as Trump shows up as one of the most corrupt presidents in US history, it definitely sets a different mood than what the tone of the conference would ideally be about. The New York Times reported that Trump has pocketed over $1.4 billion in just this past year. Think about that. $1.4 billion. It's such an enormous amount. Even looking at his predecessors, Joe Biden, Barack Obama, George W. Bush, none of these presidents had the kind of investments or profiteering operations like Trump has had in just this part of his presidency alone. The New York Times broke down what's in that $1.4 billion. They reported the Trumps have made at least $23 million from licensing Mr. Trump's name overseas since his reelection on things like a hotel, an office tower, a golf course in places like Riyadh and India. They reported that the Trumps are pocketing $28 million from Amazon for a documentary about Melania Trump. That documentary is directed by Brett Ratner, who recently appeared in the Epstein files. The Times said that major tech and media companies have paid Mr. Trump $90.5 million in settlements since his reelection, including from X, ABC News, Meta, YouTube, and Paramount. They go on to say that none of these settlements were justified on the merits alone. For example, they say Paramount agreed to pay Trump $16 million after he claimed they deceptively edited an interview with Kamala Harris in 2024. But there was no evidence that that actually took place. 3 weeks later, the FCC approved Paramount's $8 billion merger with Skydance. Of course, Qatar gave Trump a $400 million jet. And perhaps most notably, the Trumps have made at least $867 million in the past year through various cryptocurrencies. In October, Reuters reported on how they tallied up how much Trump was making from crypto in 2025, finding that he earned over $800 million from his family's crypto ventures. That included World Liberty Financial, a crypto firm that its revenue comes almost entirely from the sales of digital tokens. It also includes the Trump meme coin. The UAE poured more than $2 billion into Trump's crypto startup alone, showing how foreign governments and other entities can essentially just perform bribery for favors from Trump. And just in the past month, CNN reported that recent Trump investments have reignited concerns around potential conflicts of interests after he purchased up to $2 million in Netflix and Warner Brothers Discovery investments days after they announced the mega deal that would link the two giants. All of these nakedly corrupt issues with Trump have come to light even before he ever stepped foot in Davos. He's there for the 3rd time this year, along with a record number of people in his administration accompanying him. But other world leaders, as well as people around the world, aren't falling for it. For example, Trump's Commerce Secretary was booed and basically laughed out of the room. The Financial Times reported that U.S. Commerce Secretary Howard Lutnick was heckled. Lutnick had made a bunch of controversial remarks in the lead up to this. He basically said that the world should focus on coal over renewables. He made fun of Europe. And he also wrote an op-ed where he said that we are here at Davos to make one thing crystal clear. With President Trump, capitalism has a new sheriff in town, referring to this as not upholding the status quo, but rather confronting it head on. Considering that 1 in 4 people around the world are currently experiencing food insecurity, and the Trump administration's best efforts at home were to recommend eating a piece of chicken, broccoli, a tortilla, and one other thing for dinner, these comments weren't really received well. The Financial Times reported that one of the many hecklers in the crowd was actually Al Gore, the former US vice president. Gore responded, I sat and listened to his remarks. I didn't interrupt him in any way. It's no secret that I think this administration's energy policy is insane. And at the end of his speech, I reacted with how I felt, and so did several others. As usual, Trump also embarrassed himself on stage, confusing Greenland for Iceland multiple times in one speech.
Decades. But the problem with NATO is that we'll be there for them 100%. But I'm not sure that they'd be there for us. If we gave them the call, gentlemen, we are being attacked. We're under attack by such and such a nation. I know them all very well. I'm not sure that they'd be there. I know we'd be there for them. I don't know that they'd be there for us. So with all of the money we expend, with all of the blood, sweat, and tears, I don't know that they'd be there for us. They're not there for us on Iceland, that I can tell you. I mean, our stock market took the first dip yesterday because of Iceland. So Iceland's already cost us a lot of money. But that dip is peanuts compared to what it's gone.
After NewsNation White House correspondent Libby Dean tweeted about this, saying during his WEF remarks, President Trump appeared to mix up Greenland and Iceland around 3 times, White House Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt responded and said, no, he didn't, Libby. His written remarks referred to Greenland as a piece of ice because that's what it is. You're the only one mixing anything up here. I find that pretty unconvincing. But Trump wasn't the only person speaking in Davos who people found unconvincing this week so far. It's a gathering of billionaires and some of the richest people in the world who are the ones causing all of this massive wealth inequality, not solving it. At Davos, you have people like NVIDIA CEO Jensen Huang, who is worth over $160 billion, saying that he doesn't want PhDs and CEOs to criticize AI, especially in front of governments. This is an openly selfish way of looking at the world, and that's no surprise coming from someone who's one of the wealthiest people on the planet. These people could use their wealth to end so many of the issues facing people around the world, but by hoarding it, they're actually perpetuating those issues. Obviously, another one of those people is Elon Musk, who also showed up at the conference this year. New York Times tech reporter Ryan Mack tweeted that BlackRock CEO Larry Fink had to ask the crowd to applaud for Musk multiple times. That Oxfam report explicitly linked rising billionaire wealth to Trump's tax cuts for the ultra wealthy, his weak enforcement against monopolies, and his policies that benefit the corrupt AI industry. While these billionaires have gained trillions, everyday people are facing things like rising everyday costs, rising healthcare premiums, as well as disappearing safety nets. It's no wonder why people at the conference aren't happy with the likes of Musk and Trump, but it's also even more clear why people around the world are standing up to them and saying enough is enough.